Hi, welcome back to Wild Speculations. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
This week we talk about Critical Role Campaign 2, Episode 54.
74.
74. I can read. Manifold Morals.
Like, wait, I didn't rewatch 54 again. Yeah.
We were right. Guest star is who we introduced last week.
Yep.
Or the week before last. At the end of the show. Reanimar. Right? Rena. Or Rini. An ASMR druid. And Danny sort of spoiled it.
Calling her a scourge ASMR.
Yeah. I think that's going to be a theme now. With any ASMR that comes on the show. Their type won't be specifically hinted at in the show. It'll be after. It'll be in the supplementals.
There you go.
Because we didn't find out about Ashley's
Until
subtype.
Talks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, we've talked about the PC Halo.
And she literally had one.
She literally had one.
I mean, she was kind of like just a Mighty Nine amalgamation, though.
Yeah. Well, as Marisha said, she's a horoscope. Like, they were all able to find something of themselves in her.
Yep.
Yeah. And I kind of feel bad for Matt because, and this is just a meta quality of the game that is never going to change.
Right.
But no NPC, even if that NPC is there to genuinely help the party, is ever going to receive that kind of reception.
Yeah.
Like, even if Matt had written that NPC and just given it to her, but if he was going to play it, it would not have gotten that
same reception. Yeah.
Also in
Kiri got a pretty good reception.
Yeah, that's true.
But 99% of the time you are right.
Yeah. But, and the other funny thing, when they were talking with, I don't remember exactly who they were talking to. But I think it was Rini. It was still Rini. But Bo stopped her sentence, and Jester finished it.
Yeah. And
I was kind of like, once again, Jester finishes what they start.
Yes. And I love the Laura Bailey has a run for her money in the Dice Protocol comment. Because, like,
oh, yeah.
May I touch them? Yes, of course you may.
Yeah, and I think Liam,
that's all the time we have for tonight.
Yeah,
folks.
Yeah. Liam and I have very similar sense of humor, I think.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking a similar thing. And when he said it, I laughed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if, because a lot of that, basically I think the first half hour of the episode was a lot of, it's somebody new at the table.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of the energy. And it took a while for that to smooth itself out and for the narrative to pick back up.
And I think it was as much Mika as the cast. Because, I mean, obviously I would assume from the, how she came in and everything that she's an experienced player.
Yeah.
And, she just had this backstory and she wanted to share parts of it and, there was a lot of character bonding.
Yeah, well, and we've talked about it much more so with this campaign than last campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Matt seems to have done a lot to work in lore and clues.
Yes.
With their guest stars.
Mm-hmm.
More so than last campaign.
Yeah.
Or last campaign you had Zara and Cash
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember Will Wheaton's dwarf name, and then,
Uh,
but like everyone who came who was guest star, those characters could have come from any game.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, they're a lot more tied to the world.
Yeah.
But and we see about the differences. I mean, obviously they compare and contrast her to Yasha.
Yeah.
Sam almost right off the bat with that. They hear about the angelic guide, and we find out pretty quickly about her moral code.
Yeah,
She's
and
more than likely a lawful neutral.
let's see, I was thinking lawful good,
Maybe.
and that whole interaction there reminded me very much of the prophecy.
Yeah.
When Thomas is speaking to the woman who's taking care of the girl, but he's like, would you ever want to meet an angel?
Yeah.
Your existence, all total subservience, and one wing always dipped in blood.
Yeah.
And that very much encompassed her.
Samuel.
Well, not just Samuel, but her herself.
Yeah.
She is the sword of whatever god on Exandria.
Yeah.
And gleefully so.
Yes. Which
was
the reason
a great...
I said neutral, and I would say neutral with good leanings, is that she was pretty hardline about it. She's like, no, it doesn't matter why. And they later got her to say, okay, well, if you're doing it that way, you're doing good. But she was like, I don't know, I've got to check with Samael about this, So that's why I say she's,
I say lawful good because she was so focused on doing good.
Yeah,
on
and
being
the
the hero
is the
right.
What needs to die, and I can see that too.
Yeah. Giving Ford a lesson in lawful good.
Yes. It's a good thing she didn't meet Ford about 5 days prior when he still had the influence of Uk'otoa on him.
Yeah. Or 2 weeks prior when she started getting her visions.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing. See, I went back and forth on whether or not that sword is actually something they need to defeat this, to win this battle. But the fact that she started getting visions before they unleashed the Laughing Hand.
Right.
But after they opened the seals on Uk'otoa.
Mm-hmm.
Or roundabout.
Yeah.
When they unleashed the...
No, it was definitely after.
The second seal. So, yeah, I think there are celestial forces going to do their best.
Yes.
To keep things together.
Yeah.
So...
And we get hinted at that the Grave Domain is basically the religious assassin.
Now, he did that. He said that in jest.
Yes.
But, I mean, in a very explicit way, yes, she has told him there are certain individuals that if you come across, you must kill them.
Yeah.
Witches, vampires, any corporeal undead.
Yep.
Incorporeal undead seem to be a gray area because the spirits at the base of the volcano they left alone.
Right. But specters aren't corporeal.
True.
And when Ford raised one, he wasn't having any of it.
That's true too. Yeah.
So.
But that's why I say there might be a gray area.
Yeah.
In there. Because not all incorporeal undead are exist because they tried to get out of.
Due to necromancy.
Right.
Or evil, yeah.
One of the things that I also noticed in this episode was Taliesin. At first, I thought it was because he wasn't that concerned about it, that it wasn't a big deal. But when he said you actually wrote that down when she was going through her cupcake inventory, and Matt says, yeah, you got to keep track of your inventory. I don't think he does.
Yeah.
And
well, not to the degree that some of the others do, or that like you or I do in our games.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, that's true. I don't think anyone is as crazy as I am with how I keep track of my inventory. And I don't even have D&D Beyond to do it for me. But I don't think D&D Beyond could do what I like to do. So
yeah.
Because we've talked about I like each individual
section of your backpack and pouches to be separated and what's where.
But massive lore drop in this episode. And again,
a few times,
because Matt wove that in with the guest star's character. Because through her, we learn that Uthadern has evil crime families.
Yes. Because she is the superhero.
Not something you generally run across in dwarven societies.
True.
Where their criminal element might be something along the lines of they're bending some tax laws, or they're importing stuff that maybe they shouldn't, or they're exporting to people who are in need but are legally not allowed to be exported to.
Right.
Where the picture she painted was, these are some evil people doing really bad shit. Which plays into the whole theme of this campaign being very morally gray.
Yeah.
We learn that her father, her adoptive father, Landon, is an alchemist in Nicodramus.
Yep.
When Jester messaged Yeza later in the episode, she didn't mention that.
Nope.
And I was kind of saddened by it. Because and this goes to Jester as the messenger and Jester as the message.
Yeah.
Because normally when she sends to Yeza, it's on behalf of Not. Not gives her things that she wants to convey, and Jester conveys those things.
Yeah.
Or this time she was just messaging him, and Not was like, hey, how is he?
Yeah. It would have been nice because, I mean, that's basically income for them so they can get on their feet and establish themselves and not just be refugees, so to speak.
But I love that Bo waited until she mentioned wine. Because she's like, come back to my house, I have tea and
cookies.
And Jester's and Caduceus is like, ooh. And Not's like, do you like whiskey? She's like, who doesn't? Oh, I love her. It's like, I have wine if you're not into that. And that's when Bo's like, okay, who are you?
Yeah.
Who do you work for?
You? Myself.
And that's part of like how their character backstories inform the moment.
Yeah.
Because Bo comes from winemakers.
Yeah. From
vintners. So yeah, that made me laugh a lot. But Caleb does his best to keep them on track throughout the whole episode. Yes. And I was just like, oh, thank you, Liam.
Yes.
Who was it? Was it Taliesin that said it was like an ADD bomb?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which it was.
Totally. Which it is whenever you have a new player join the table.
Yeah, for a while.
Yeah. I also love the tangent about C4. All you need to do is meet someone and they'll give you power.
Yeah.
Do you need to meet a fairy? Which was a callback to Campaign 1 with Grog.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we've been talking about Patron Switch.
Yep.
Now, we've been focusing on Celestial, potentially, or Hexblade, but the Wild Mother. This sort of floats the balloon of Fey Pact.
Yeah.
Which we talked about briefly and then discounted it.
Yeah.
But it does give that reaction teleport.
Yes. It gives that reaction teleport. The other thing I was thinking, and I know we've talked about it and discussed the weighing of the options, and that he doesn't meet the requirements and how he can meet the requirements to multi-class to Paladin. Well, what if he just retrains and goes straight Paladin for the 9 levels? Then he wouldn't need this strength requirement.
It's true. You only need that requirement to multi-class, yeah.
And if the sword lets him use his charisma, he's basically on the same ground.
I see what you're saying, yeah. But the more time that goes by, I think he's going to remain the Hexblade.
Yeah. He either needs to remain a Hexblade or be just reclassed to Paladin to keep that martial that he's already getting to keep.
Yeah.
He can't go Sorcerer and keep it. He can't go any other Warlock patron or pack and keep it. So, I think he will stay at Hexblade, but that was another option. I was like, because for a while I really thought they were just going to give him gauntlets and let him multi-class.
Yeah.
But now that they're going so far away that, hey, you don't get to keep your powers, he'll need to retool,
Yeah. But the lore bombs in this episode, do you want to get into them? Or do you want to, like we normally go through sort of chronologically in the episode, but
let's at least talk about the thrift store / warehouse.
Okay.
Because that's before we really get into a lot of the lore bombs.
That's true.
And just hit on that. The rest of the episode is kind of lore bombs back to back. So they go there, and the way he set the scene almost reminded me of Ollivanders from Harry Potter, all the boxes, and, But I was thinking, and they talk about it, that is a really intelligent way for a shopkeep to keep things. Maybe not with having to leave every time they need to find where something is, but in the boxes, unlabeled as to what's in them, so you can be like, oh, well, that's just expensive, short of, Caduceus, oh, that's got magic, that's got magic, that's got magic. But that's a simple overcome if you're a big city shopkeep and just let boxes.
Yeah.
But, that's actually a really intelligent way to not prevent, but limit theft.
Yeah. For sure. And also the first crack we see in her all evil must die.
Yes.
Because there were the imps.
Yep.
Now, Matt didn't say they spoke in Infernal to Jester.
No, actually, it was pointed that they spoke Common.
Yes. And imps do speak Common on the monster list. But I do wonder if another player had offered the cookies, if that would have happened. Or if it was because she's a tiefling that it came down.
Yeah. the shared heritage.
But the way Matt described her movements, the imps, the seedy underbellies of Uthodurn, and the fact that she wanted them to get a ring that she claims was stolen from her.
Yeah.
And as the episode went on, I was like, and this is really on my rewatch. After the Lord drop of about Rudis. But that ring sounds like it's from wherever they're excavating, and I can't remember, or Meleasmere. And she's laying claim to it from heritage point of view.
Yeah.
But either way, it kind of worries me because the jet. My first thoughts in the episode was a ring of elemental control. But I don't know. Not enough information was given. For that to be conclusive. But one of the things that we speculated on a long time ago was the crystals being implanted into Caleb being residual. Basically confirmed this episode.
Yes.
Which was a big aha for them and for me. And this is one of the things that I don't know, because like she said it wasn't. Well, she didn't say they were an evil family, but it was implied that they were evil, or at least greedy and.
I believe she used the term immoral.
Yeah. Matt gave a location of the home. But whatever he gave Mika, that didn't ring any bells.
Right.
And part of me wonders, like, what part does she play in the whole thing? Where, like, in the ruins of Meleasmere, the collections of things, where does she fall? And we've been talking, especially since the Laughing Hand episodes, the Blood War, and devils and demons, and we see potentially this is our first indication of devils being on the good side, of trying to keep the demons out. Right. And I was thinking she might be a warlock, Pact of the Chain. Or she just has two imps as guards. Yeah. Which makes me wonder what the imps are getting out of it. Yeah. Or are they on loan from some other hell lord? Right. To her. So, yeah. Which also, again, takes me back to what I was talking about last week with the diarchy discussion. And, like, what happened in Meleasmere, in the Savalur Wood. Yeah. That caused the elves to have to diaspora. I think she is a clue to that.
Okay.
and that will come when they get the ring. In that quest line, we'll get more of that, I think.
Okay.
And there was, I engaged in a thread on Twitter about someone said, you know, they were asking for a spin-off show with all the guest stars.
Mm.
And I made the comment, well, she did just take a 6-month contract to basically hang out with Neela.
Yeah.
Who's watching Caduceus' Grove in the Savoy Wood. And on my first watch, I was like, man, why doesn't Taliesin say anything? And then it wasn't until my rewatch that I was like, oh, Taliesin's being good. He's not metagaming.
Mm-hmm.
Because Caduceus wasn't in the room when they went back to negotiate that deal.
Yeah.
And I think she had mentioned it in passing with her Glassblade contact.
Mm-hmm.
That she had gone to the Savoy Wood and came back with only like 2 survivors out of the party that they went with. Which also makes me wonder who those other people were.
Mm-hmm.
And we may see them. So
yeah.
Yeah, it will be interesting. But do we want to get into lordoms, or did you have anything else?
Yeah. No, just I wanted to touch on the residuum, and that can kind of be considered a lord drop, but
yeah,
really more just a confirmation of a theory.
Yeah.
But I also thought it was interesting the way they stored it, the imps that you touched on, and then the hodgepodge of the mythical.
Yeah, like to me, I was like, why are you? Like as soon as she brought that out, if I was at a table, I would have been like, nope.
Yeah.
We're gonna go deeper into the mine, and we're gonna get an ingot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was enough.
It was. But I do think they overpaid because they were essentially buying art objects.
Yeah.
Instead of the metal.
But that's okay. They're adventurers.
It's true. What will be funny though is if they come across a little boy later, or when they're in the house to get that ring, they see a collection of toy soldiers with 1 less.
Yeah.
Or 3 mithril teacups, 1's missing.
Yeah. Like 3 saucers and 2 cups.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they go to the library. It wasn't called a scriptorium, but it's called the
something spire.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
They get the rules. We find out that Rainey fancies herself a superhero.
And is as secret about her about her identity as Batman in the superhero cafe.
Yeah.
Do you want to know my secret identity? Yeah.
Yeah. And we also get a very important name drop. We find out Beau's last name.
Yeah.
It's Lionette.
Yeah. I don't know in the grand scheme of things how important that is, but
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Could be, and I think mainly because we've gone 74 episodes without knowing it.
Yeah. Well, and we still don't know Bren's real last name, do we?
Yeah, we do. When he said it, he gave his full name.
Well, and I guess
I don't remember what it is off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But we know Caduceus. I don't know that Molly Mock ever had one.
No.
We don't know Ford's,
if he even has one.
if he even has one. Being, an orphan.
Yeah.
We've known Jester's. We know Beth's.
Yeah.
So.
And I thought it was interesting when Caleb made the comment, "You never said it," and she's like, "You never asked."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yep."
Like, true. Flashback to Scanlon.
Yep. Yep. And that comment or a similar comment was made. Was it a live show? When they're like, we should ask about your mother, in case it ever comes up again.
Yeah.
But we get the moons of Exandria.
Yes.
Cathus
And Ruidus.
Catha and Ruidus. Considered a bringer of ill omen.
Yes. Potentially
And-
made of cheese and potentially home of demons.
Yeah. And on my initial watch, Matt's like, you can't see it during the day and only occasionally at night.
Right.
And I was like, well, you usually can't see the moon during the day anyway. But then I was like, well, technically, you can see our moon during the day.
Yeah.
So if Catha is like Luna,
Mm-hmm.
then it would be visible.
Well, with Ruidus, I almost got the feeling Dragonlance has 3 moons. And a good neutral and evil moon over the branches
one is
of
white,
Arcane.
one is red, and
One is black. And it gave me a Nutari vibe, the evil black moon. And,
well, and the biggest lore drop of that section was no one is sure if it was there before
if
the
it's
calamity.
an actual moon or if it's a man or a god-made satellite.
Right.
Which,
by the betrayer gods.
My brain went to, that's no moon.
My brain didn't go quite there. Mine went with maybe that's where the Tarask is.
See, I thought it was like, because he talked about some unfinished plan. I'm like, well, what if it was a setup plan to break the divine gate?
Yeah.
A failsafe. And I know you wrote that in your notes, but which makes it a weapon, which is where I went to with that's no move. It's a weapon.
Yeah. But yeah, we've been talking about the betrayer god's plans to tear down the divine gate, and the Tarask would be central to that effort, which is why I was like, maybe that's where the Tarask is at. Traditionally, in other D&D lore, the Tarask generally resides in the center of the earth. But it would be an interesting change and give us a Thanos Infinity War moment.
Yeah.
When whichever evil priest or priestess has that jet ring, because that's where my brain went after this lore drop.
Yeah.
She wants the Infinity Stone so she can pull the moon down.
Yep.
So yeah, that's where my brain was going. I don't necessarily think it's that, but it's an interesting thing. And like in my initial watch, I thought Beauregard's moon theory was just a way to shift the conversation to demons and such. And maybe that's what it was, but on my rewatch, Matt got kind of a surprised look on his face. And I think that's one of those moments where your players are
Touch
putting
on-
things together in
Yeah.
the back of their mind, and they hit on something that's a little too accurate
Yeah.
and too soon. And because she got all excited, she's like, yeah, I know this. Because her and Matt have probably talked about this numerous times.
Yeah.
The moon lore. It's stuff that has yet to have showed up in a game, but it's lore. Matt, like me, probably talks to his players outside a game about stuff that legends and lore that maybe their players could know or could not know.
Right.
But just ideas and stuff, and just because you had a cool idea, you want to talk to your players about it.
You want to share it with your friends, and your friends that are going to be interested in it are probably your friends that are your players.
Right. And it's not going to be like he probably laid the seeds for this conversation were probably from campaign 1, which is why Marisha got so excited that she knows this.
Yeah.
Because those kind of things were seeded when Matt was doing the first campaign and writing the campaign guide.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a spoiler for campaign 1,
Right.
but maybe the seeds potentially were there for campaign 2. And maybe Matt was a little
like, oh, did I drop that too soon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think also I want to know, Matt gave us that tidbit about it's darker and isn't always, it's further away, he said.
Yeah.
Which is a very Copernican and Galileo vision of things.
Yeah.
Where most D&D worlds are pre-Copernican, and that world is the center of everything, and everything else moves around it.
Yeah.
And distance isn't necessarily a thing. Other than when you can definitely tell that something eclipses something else.
Right.
You know that it's in front of it. So in that way, they could know distance. But it made me wonder about the orbital periods. And this is because I went deep into this when I created Araku. And on revisiting it, I realized I screwed it up the first time. But yeah, it made me interested to know what those are, and if Rudis, what the period of its eclipse with the sun is.
And is that the trigger? Yeah.
Yeah. Or is there an alignment of the sun, Cathus, and Rudis? That's
Like every 800 to 1,000 years?
Yeah. Yeah.
From just before the calamity to now?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's a little dark, Crystal.
Yeah. And we know that's a big influence on Matt.
Yeah.
And there's a sequel.
Yeah.
Coming out.
Can't wait for
so,
that.
But the other thing that happened in this episode, 2 mentions of Marquette in this episode, which makes it the 3rd one in the campaign.
Yep.
Because Matt mentioned, what's her name? Ara? The proprietress of the store. But anyway, he mentioned she was in a Marquesian gown.
Right.
And then when Matt was telling her about the poisons that she was reading about,
some of them were
Marquesian. Are we potentially going to get some sort of a tie-in with Marquette this campaign?
possibly.
So, yeah, that was interesting to me. We got Blink Dog diet information.
Yes. They're vegan.
Yeah. And all I can think about now is Jester putting peanut butter on a cracker and pushing it up in the Nugget's mouth. Because nuts into a paste is peanut butter.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got still no joy for True Polymorph.
Right. Which I mean, True Polymorph is a pretty high level spell, and there's not a lot of people that cast 9th level spells in the world.
True Polymorph 7th.
Is it? Oh, okay, I thought True Polymorph was 9.
Huh. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 7.
Okay. So I was gonna say it makes sense that not tons of people.
That's true.
Have it as common knowledge.
Yeah, but you'd think a tome on transmutation, because that's basically the peak
The
of
pinnacle of
transmutative force. That a tome on it would have included it.
Yeah.
And I guess you could argue that it sort of had hints that something like that would be possible.
Right.
So, I don't know. It kind of makes me wonder if that wasn't going to be on Liam's choices for the research spells that Caleb was going to take, the 2 spells you get every level.
Right.
And so he's playing this dance with Matt, trying to get Matt to give him access to it so he doesn't have to give up one of those research spells.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Or maybe it was on his research list, and Liam's just using this as an opportunity to do that research in RP.
Yeah.
So that's a question for Liam or Matt on Talks.
Yeah.
Next time
one of them is on.
And probably one that they could answer. Because I feel bad for Matt, and I feel bad for whoever. I don't know if it's Danny or if it's who is responsible for sorting the questions out when the guests appear on Talks.
I believe it's Danny and Brian both pick questions.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't know if they pawned off on some PA or a social media person or what.
I know in the past they've both mentioned that they look through.
Well, I know they curate,
yeah,
and they decide which ones they're definitely going to ask on the show.
Right.
But I think that I don't know if that's a veto kind of thing, where they're brought a list of 50 questions, and of those 50 they pare it down, or if they're brought a list of 20 questions and they pare it down.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because I gotta believe it's gotta be more than the 8 to 10 that they ask in an episode.
Oh yeah, it is easily.
But most of the stuff, and even some of the stuff that gets through when Matt's on, is still stuff that Matt goes, I can't answer that. Or he plays coy and gives some sort of a face, or
I think
puts on his poker
that's
face.
Probably 99% of the questions asked for Matt when he's on.
Yeah. But yeah.
Which, I've been guilty of early in campaign 2. I asked about the curse on the goblins and not from my theory about not.
Yeah.
I submitted that question, didn't get asked. I'm not surprised because it's, probably.
Well, and it was, at that time, it would have been a potential spoiler for both not and world building stuff. So, yeah. I did love Chaos Crew was coined.
Yeah.
And embraced.
I get it for not and Jester and to a degree Caleb, even though Caleb's
Bo is all
established.
about the chaos.
See,
Caleb to me is the least chaotic of all of them.
no, I mean he's definitely lawful, but I mean, and if you're going law versus chaos, okay.
And that's how I immediately framed it that way, because those three went off and they're the law guys.
I looked at it as the shenanigans, and Ford is definitely not any sort of moral compass for the group. I'm sorry. Bo is more of a moral compass for the group than Ford is. Hands down, any day of the week.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. But I did enjoy it.
And that's where I went with it, because Taliesin says any vague sense of moral compass is gone. I'm like, okay, that's true for you and the guest star, not for Ford.
Yeah.
Ford has nothing to do with,
Well, and if you're very early on, we talked about not being the moral compass.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Yeah, with her mothering.
Yeah. But yeah.
And definitely you could argue that Caleb is as much, if not more, of a moral compass than Ford is.
Yeah. But again, a moral compass doesn't necessarily mean
pointing towards
chaos or law, or chaos or order.
Right.
Because you can have a moral compass that points you to good and tear down structure to achieve that good.
Well, your moral compass could point to chaos, to law, to good, to evil.
Yeah.
You're still a compass. It's just what point of the are you aligned to?
Yep. There is a south needle on that compass as well as north.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to talk about how good of a DM Matt is.
Yes.
For one specific reason.
Okay.
And it's something that, and it proves that Critical Role is not a railroad.
Yeah.
Because if Matt was a railroady GM, Essick would have said no. And Matt would have forced them to go overland
and use those maps.
And use the maps that he made. At least one of which he was very proud of.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that it was a frost giant encounter.
Okay.
And it was a frost giant map. Because
my brain was going to the Yetis.
See, I don't think from a construction point of view, I don't think that is interesting.
Okay.
Unless he was doing something interesting with terrain that he hasn't done before to give elevation better. But generally he doesn't do that because most dungeon tiles don't do that.
Right.
But I have a feeling that a frost giant encounter in a castle or a ruin, a frost giant ruin, offers interesting terrain features that you can play around with, where your steps are 5 to 10 feet in height, and then like 15 feet deep.
Yeah.
15, 20 feet deep. And there's just this huge, just circular riser of these massive steps.
Okay.
Or he was able to produce something like the Giant's Causeway. The same kind of idea, where there's just massive things. And where normally, and Chris Perkins did this at PAX in Acquisitions Incorporated. I think it was the last year that Benwin was there. But they were in a frost giant castle. And he played with them a little bit on the notion that they were having to climb every step in this place because they couldn't just walk up it.
Right.
They didn't push it to hilarity where they're slipping because it's basically an ice wall, potentially.
Right.
And they could have played it for comedy, and it could have taken 20 minutes to get up the stairs. But I don't think Chris wanted to do that. It was just flavor insert.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a map prepared for that. But if Matt prepared this giant encounter to have these elements there.
See, I went to Yetis because you talked about the Yetis and the Yetis being afraid of this older, more powerful Yeti.
Yeah. Well, I think
not necessarily with the map terrain, but just the encounter as a whole. This is how they would come, and
Yeah. I think that was his foreshadowing of the encounters that they would be potentially facing.
Yeah.
Or maybe he had an interesting one for the wyverns.
Yeah.
Because flying creatures can present all sorts of interesting things.
That they can.
So, yeah, I definitely think the creatures that he mentioned, the Yeti, Wyvern, Frost Giants, were all encounters that he had readied. And I think he was most excited about the Frost Giants.
Okay. I have no doubt that those were the encounters that they bypassed by teleporting.
Yeah. But we get told about Geladon, the Nightmare in Ivory.
Yes.
And all the shit they were giving him about otters. I had a fantasy that Matt got in touch with Benedict Cumberbatch, who voiced Smaug.
Right.
And asked him to do some lines for him for this white dragon.
Okay.
Just because I think it would be great. And part of me hopes whatever Matt had planned for the voice of that dragon, that after that, the otter joking, he'd just say, you know what? No, I'm going more towards Smaug. And that's my hope. His previous white dragons have been very guttural and in the deeper registry.
Yeah.
Which is close to what Cumberbatch did for Smaug.
Right.
So yeah, I'm hopeful. And maybe because Matt does like to write dialogue.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that he tweaks it a little bit and throws in a little something.
We'll see.
But we have, when Caleb was going to do it, cast Dispel Magic on that page that they got. 2 bags and a pouch?
No, 2 pouches and a round case.
That's right. Fell out. I think that's going to be the second order of business this Thursday. The first being, I'm going to put up the hut.
Yes.
And we're going to rest, because Jester doesn't have any 3rd level spell slots. And Rena is down a wild shape.
Yep.
So, yeah, I imagine it's going to be, we're going to rest.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see whether or not Matt described cage-like structure over the mouth of the cave.
Yes.
And we've been told that this dragon hasn't been seen in over 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it is imprisoned in there?
Not for
or
long.
Hibernating?
That's
a different thing altogether.
I don't know. I'm sensing a pattern. Oh, something's locked away. Let's go explore and let it out.
Fair. Yeah. But do you have any ideas for what those items may be?
The pouches and stuff?
Yeah.
I have a feeling. I want to say it's not a scroll case, so I have a hard time, but I almost want to say there's a scroll or a document of a high-level transmutation spell. There are going to be things to do with transmutation, whether it's spell components or research notes.
See, I have figured that Matt misspoke.
Okay.
And that he meant to say conjuration. Because conjuration would have been the spell to create a pocket dimension within that page.
Right. No, see, it's in a book on transmutation.
Yeah.
And all the intricacies of transmutation. Why are you going to hide conjuration stuff or abjuration stuff in a I mean, other than
he didn't ask who the author was.
It's true.
Or if that page was original to that book to begin with.
That's true, and it was in different ink.
So my thought is that it's a crystal ball in the case.
Okay.
Whether it's just a standard run-of-the-mill crystal ball or one of the more legendary ones.
Yeah.
I don't know. But either way, those things are going to be useful in exploring Belaismere. I think that tome, because a lot of the stuff that's happening in Uthadurn is excavating these pre-calamity sites.
Right.
And I think that Belaismere was either a sacrifice or was integral in the creation of Rudis. I think that's what we're going to find. If indeed it was created by the betrayer of gods. Whatever happened there was integral in what happened.
Okay.
Or that Belaismere is that flying city and it crashed. Which we still don't know where exactly that actually fell up here in the north. We know it fell here in the north somewhere.
Right.
From the Happy Funtime Ball episode.
Yes.
So, yeah. Maybe that was one of the random encounters that he had planned out.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But time crunches they're on. I think they have 7 days till the Scourger's execution. Was it a week or was it a 2? Did he say 2 weeks?
It might have been 2, but I want to say it's 1.
And 2 days to meet with Sunlash. To get his notes on Rudis.
Yeah.
Which thankfully they have a teleport circle access. So in theory they could rest, do their thing, and even potentially rest another day before getting back to Uthadurn to meet him.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting to see how Matt is able to play with that timing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's. We'll see, because at this point there's a lot of plates spinning, and a lot of different directions they could go. And I think Matt has placed different parts of the lore that they need to get to the end in different places, and he's just trying to keep all these things spinning to see which one they go for. At least that's the vibe that I got.
Same.
But I think this episode is going to be combat heavy. This week's episode.
Yeah.
What if that bigger Yeti has something of the dragons, which makes it dormant?
Possibly.
Anyway, that's all for us. We're gonna go enjoy Talks Machnia. Tonight's guests are
Marisha and Mika.
there we go, and we'll see you guys next week.